violence, and Christians there are in danger of being persecuted for their faith. There are reports of kidnappings and beheadings, leaving many Christians to hide out in refugee camps. Joining me now to talk about the crisis, Johnnie Moore, Senior Vice President of Liberty University, author and humanitarian. He has traveled to the region to spend time with Syrian refugees and Christian leaders. Johnnie, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me, Shannon.
So people know, tell us what you saw firsthand there.
You know, what I saw just like blew my mind. I mean, I watch the news every day. I know about the conflict in Syria and in Egypt, and but I was just shocked. I sat down, I talked to Christian leaders, I talked to refugees, I went to the refugee camp, and I guess if I summed it up in kind of a snapshot, it's that the Arab Spring has produced a Christian winter in the part of the world where Christianity came from. I mean, Egypt and Syria have the largest Christian populations of any nation in the Middle East, and they're being decimated. People are being killed by the thousands. There were over 1,200 Christian leaders killed in Syria just last year. You know, in Egypt, we had more Christian violence against Christians, more persecution last year in 2013 than in the previous 7 centuries. This is one of the great stories of all of history, and hardly anybody knows about it.
Why do you think that is? And what can people do to raise awareness? And you know, is there anything practical that they can do to step in and help these folks?
Yeah, I think the reason why is because Christians are pulled in between. You know, they're not on either side of the issue. They're peace-loving people. They're not raising their weapons in the conflicts. They've just lived there for, you know, and we're talking about 2 million Christians in Syria. We're talking about 10 million Christians in Egypt. But they're just caught in the center. They're everybody's enemy, and Islamic radicals are moving in, and they're making this a holy war, and they're just enemies of anybody. You know, the one village that still speaks the language of Jesus had 4,000 people in it. Now it has 10 people in it, and the Virgin Mary statue sitting outside of the church where people made pilgrimages to for centuries now has a Islamic flag hanging outside of it. I mean, this is a catastrophic moment, and I think we need to educate ourselves. I think we need to raise our own voices. We need to help organizations that are on the front lines.
And very quickly, you wrote a piece that's gotten a lot of attention on FoxNews.com, and we'll direct folks to that because it spells out a lot of very important things. But one thing you noted is that there are many Muslims in that region who are very concerned and trying to protect Christians as well.
That's right. It's important to realize that, you know, the royal family in Jordan, for instance, is doing a great deal to help the Christian leaders in Syria and in Egypt and in the entire region. So we need to be friends with our friends around the world and not just assume that everybody that's a Muslim is a radical Muslim. Actually, the same radicalism is threatening stability across the entire region. So we need to educate ourselves on this issue, and as Christians in the West, we need to be grateful for the Christians in the East. I mean, you know, the Apostle Paul was converted on the road to Damascus. When Jesus was threatened by Herod, he went to Egypt. So much of Christian history comes from that place. And the tragedy is that Christians in the West hardly have any idea at all that the road of Paul is filled with bomb craters and people are dying every day.
Well, your piece is very powerful. Again, we'll direct folks to that. Thank you very much, Johnnie, for spotlighting this.